Hello everyone, Chip Boaz here, and today we're going to be looking at 4 patterns that you can use to build walking bass lines through 2/5 chord progressions. Having a toolbox full of walking bass patterns will give you what you need to fluidly improvise creative lines over jazz standards. Now, some people may give you some grief for putting patterns into improvisation, but that's just because they don't understand improvisation. Improvisation is not just coming up with things out of thin air, it's the creative manipulation of material that you've already played. Take bass players like Ron Carter or Christian McBride. They just have massive toolboxes to draw upon to mix and match ideas into new and brilliant bass lines. Patterns are the foundation of walking bass lines. And once you've got a bunch in your toolbox, you'll be able to mix and match them too into something unique, creative, and new. If you want some extra help in putting these patterns to use, check out the link in the description. You'll be able to download everything I talk about today in both musical notation and tab, as well as some extra information to get you going. Check it out. It'll be a big help. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with the basic line over 4 measures that's constructed using arpeggios. Since all of the patterns involve chord tones, I'm going to stick to that and avoid scalar movement right now. The first measure walks over a D minor 7 chord, which is our 2. The second measure walks over a G dominant 7 chord, which is our 5. The third and fourth measures walk over a C major 7, which is our 1. Let's try it out. Notice that this line is kind of dry. Actually, it's a straight up boring bass line. We need to integrate some chromatic leading tones into the line to create some forward motion. Since we're working on going from the 2 chord to the 5 chord, the most logical place to put that note would be on beat 4 of the measure that outlines the 2 chord, right before you fall into the 5 chord. So in theory, this could be really easy. We could just change the note on beat 4 of the measure with the 2 chord and insert a chromatic leading tone that's either a half step above or below the first note of the next measure. Now, it doesn't sound bad. In order to create stronger forward motion, you want to start on a chord tone from the 2 chord that lies a whole step above or below a chord tone from the 5 chord. Then you can snugly fit that chromatic note in between and create an undeniable sense of forward motion moving from that 2 chord to the 5 chord. That's what's going to happen in our 4 patterns. So let's check them out. In this first pattern, we're going to be moving from the 3rd of the 2 chord to the root of the 5 chord. This is a strong movement since we're heading right into the root of that 5 chord. In this case, the 3rd of the 2 chord is an F, and the root of the 5 chord is a G, so we're going to need to put an F sharp between the 2 of them. We want that G to land on beat 1 of the 5 chord, so we're going to put that F sharp on beat 4 of the 2 chord, which means we need that F natural on beat 3. This means that we need to take out one of the notes of the arpeggio. I want to stay with the root on the downbeat, so that means I've only got the 2nd beat to work with. In this case, I'm going to take out the C, which is the seventh of the chord, and use the A, which is the fifth of the chord instead. I think the movement through the register is just a little more smooth, so I'm going to make that change. Let's check it out. In the second pattern, we're going to be moving from the fifth of the 2 chord down to the root of the 5 chord. Once again, we're moving into the root of the 5 chord, so this is a strong movement. The fifth of the 2 chord, D minor 7, is an A, and we're going to be moving down to the root of the 5 chord, G dominant 7, which is a G. So we're going to sandwich an A flat right between them. Notice that in the first pattern, we were ascending. The chromatic leading tone was a half step below the root. In this pattern, we're descending. The chromatic leading tone is a half step above the root. Now remember, we want that chromatic leading tone on beat 4, so the fifth of the 2 chord is going to be on beat 3. Once again, we want to keep the root on beat 1, so we need to adjust the second beat. This time around, I'm going to keep the 7th, that C, because I feel like it moves smoothly down to the A, which is the 5th of the chord on beat 3. Let's check it out. In the third pattern, I'm moving from the 5th of the 2 chord into the 3rd of the 5 chord. Notice we're not moving into the root of the 5 chord, so it's not as strong a movement. But it still implies the chord, and it can be a good strategy for shaping your overall walking line. The 5th of the 2 chord, D minor 7, is an A, and the 3rd of the 5 chord, G dominant 7, is a B. So we're going to fit an A sharp snugly between them. Side note here, we rarely see A sharp written in music, especially in jazz. It's most commonly seen by its other name, B flat. That's an inharmonic spelling, but that's a conversation for another time. Just know that I'm going to be calling it A sharp here because that sharp implies an ascending motion. We want that chromatic note on beat 4 and the 5th of the 2 chord on beat 3. This looks a lot like the last pattern, so I'm going to keep beats 1 and 2 the same as they were before. In the fourth pattern, I'm going to be moving from the 7th of the 2 chord up to the 5th of the 5 chord. This one's interesting because the 5th of the 5 chord is the same note as the root of the 2 chord. So it's kind of like you're popping down to the 7th and just moving back up to the root, but it's not. But it's kind of cool. The 7th of the 2 chord, D minor 7, is a C. And the 5th of the 5 chord, G dominant 7, is a D. So we're going to slide a C sharp right between them. So there you go. 4 patterns that'll help you integrate chromatic notes into your walking lines and build some forward motion. Remember, if you want to download all of the notation from this video, as well as some helpful extra tips, check out the link in the description. You'll be able to get it all, both in musical notation and tab. Once you do that, I'd start out by making sure you can play all the exercises in this video. Make sure you get them under your fingers, you see and understand the movement and how the chromatics are affecting the line. From there, I'd check out some other walking bass lines. You can check out all of the videos that I've created with walking bass lines over a bunch of standards. I'll put a link to that playlist in the description below. But check those out and see if you can find those patterns. I know in those videos you'll see those patterns all over the place. From there, try moving those patterns into some different keys and see if you can make the connections yourself. Once you've got that down, throw them into some jazz standards and see how your lines just come to life. Thanks for hanging out with me today, everyone. If you've enjoyed what you've seen and heard today, everyone, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up. Give me a message down in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the patterns. If you have any different ideas or strategies that you've used, I'd love to hear about them. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can find out about all the videos that are going to be coming up, and keep it on the lowdown, everyone. I'll be seeing you soon.